My sister hired movers to move into my house without asking, so I changed the locks while she was en route. The hydraulic hiss of the moving truck's air brakes outside my front window sounded like a declaration of war. It was 12:15 p.m. on a Saturday. The sun was beating down on the pristine stucco of my San Diego home, and parked directly across my driveway, blocking me in, was a 26-foot U-Haul. I stood behind the sheer curtains of my living room, coffee mug in hand, my heart rate steady but thumping with a heavy, ominous rhythm against my ribs. I watched as my sister, Sarah, hopped out of the passenger side. She looked triumphant. She looked like a queen surveying her new kingdom. She waved at the driver, her husband, Mike, and pointed at my front door with a proprietary jab of her finger. They had no idea that the piece of brass metal in Sarah's purse, the emergency key my mother had secretly duplicated and given to her 3 days ago, was now nothing more than a jagged piece of scrap. They thought they were moving into a rent-free paradise. They didn't realize they were walking into a foreclosure of our relationship. To understand why I was about to strand my own flesh and blood on the curb with a truckload of furniture and zero options, you have to rewind exactly 16 hours to last night's family dinner. It was supposed to be a celebration of my dad's birthday. We were at an Italian restaurant downtown, the kind with white tablecloths and overpriced veal. The mood was decent until the tiramisu arrived. That's when Sarah tapped her spoon against her wine glass. Clink, clink, clink. "We have an announcement," Sarah beamed, grabbing Mike's hand. Mike looked at his lap, shoving breadsticks into his mouth like he was trying to choke himself to avoid the conversation. I took a sip of water, expecting a pregnancy announcement. I was mentally preparing to feign excitement. "As you all know, the rent in Phoenix has gotten out of control and Mike is transitioning between careers right now," Sarah said, using the family euphemism for fired for playing video games at work. "So, we decided it was time for a fresh start. We're moving to San Diego." My mom clapped. "Oh, that's wonderful. The family will be together again." I smiled politely. "That's great, Sarah. San Diego is expensive, but the job market is okay if you hustle. Where are you guys looking to rent?" Sarah laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. It was the laugh of someone explaining a simple concept to a toddler. "Silly," she said, winking at Mom. "We aren't renting, not yet. We need to save money to get back on our feet, so we're moving in with you." The restaurant noise seemed to drop away, leaving only a high-pitched ringing in my ears. I slowly lowered my fork. "Excuse me," I asked, my voice flat. "It's perfect," Sarah continued, steamrolling right over my shock. "You have that 4-bedroom house all to yourself. It's absurd for one man to have that much space. We'll take the master suite since there are 2 of us, and you can move into the guest room for a while, just until we find jobs, probably 6 months, maybe a year." She hadn't asked. She had announced. She had planned the logistics of displacing me from my own bedroom in my own house that I paid the mortgage on, and she was presenting it as a done deal. I looked at my mother. She wasn't shocked. She was nodding. She knew they had plotted this. "Sarah," I said, feeling the heat creeping up my neck, turning my ears red. "I work from home. My office is the guest room, and I value my privacy. You cannot move in with me." "Oh, don't be selfish, OP," my dad chimed in, wiping tomato sauce from his lip. "It's family. They're in a tight spot. You have the room. We already told them it would be fine." "You told them?" I looked at my dad. "It's not your house, Dad. It's mine. My name is on the deed. I pay the taxes." "It's a family asset," Sarah snapped, her smile dropping. "God, you're so greedy. We already gave notice at our apartment. The truck is packed. We're driving out tonight. We'll be there tomorrow at noon." "No," I said. "If you show up, you aren't getting in." Sarah reached into her purse and pulled out a shiny silver key. She dangled it in front of my face like a hypnotist. "Mom gave me the spare," she smirked. "So I don't really need you to let me in, do I? We'll be there at noon. Have the driveway clear." I looked at that key. I looked at my mother, who guiltily looked away. That key was for emergencies, for fires, for if I die alone and the cat needs feeding. It wasn't for an invasion. I didn't flip the table. I didn't scream. I realized right then that arguing with them was useless. They operated on a different frequency of reality where my boundaries were merely suggestions. If I shouted, I was the crazy one. If I fought, I was the bad brother. So I stood up. I threw $100 bill on the table for my share of the meal. "Happy birthday, Dad," I said. "Sarah, do not come to my house." "See you tomorrow," she called out cheerfully as I walked away. "Make sure the fridge is stocked." I drove home in a blackout rage. I sat in my driveway for an hour staring at the house I had worked 80-hour weeks to afford. I remembered my cousin Greg. 5 years ago, Greg asked to stay for a weekend while he looked for an apartment. He stayed 11 months. He smoked inside. He ate my food. When I finally kicked him out, the family didn't speak to me for a year. "Family helps family," they chanted, while they did absolutely nothing to help anyone. I wasn't doing Greg too. I walked inside. I looked at my front door lock. It was a standard Schlage deadbolt, solid, reliable, but compromised. I didn't sleep. At 6:00 a.m. this morning, Saturday, I called a 24-hour locksmith. "I need a rekey," I told the groggy dispatcher. "All exterior doors, front, back, side, garage, and I need it done now. I'll pay double for the emergency call-out." The locksmith arrived at 7:30 a.m. He was a burly guy named Tony. He looked at my bloodshot eyes and the coffee shaking in my hand. "Bad breakup?" Tony asked as he started drilling out the cylinder of the front door. "Bad family," I corrected. "My sister thinks she's moving in today with a stolen key." Tony chuckled, a dark, knowing sound. "Ah, the squatter special. I see this more than you'd think. Tell you what, I'll install the high-security bump-proof deadbolts, the ones with the restricted keyway. Nobody duplicates these without your ID card." "Do it," I said. It took him 2 hours. By 9:30 a.m. my house was a fortress. The old keys, the one in my pocket and the one in Sarah's purse, were metal trash. I paid Tony $450. It was the best money I have ever spent. I spent the next 2 hours closing the blinds. I disconnected the doorbell chime. I sat in the living room with a book, waiting. And that brings us back to now, 12:15 p.m. Sarah is standing on my porch. She is directing the movers, 2 guys who look like they are paid by the hour and hate their lives, to lower the ramp. Mike is leaning against the truck, vaping. Sarah walks up to the door. She doesn't knock. She doesn't ring the bell. She just jams the key into the lock. I watch the doorknob jiggle. She frowns. She pulls the key out, looks at it, wipes it on her jeans and jams it back in. She twists it hard. It doesn't budge. She tries again. She starts rattling the door handle aggressively. "Open, come on." She pulls her phone out. My phone buzzes on the coffee table. "Incoming call, Sarah." I ignore it. She calls again. I ignore it. She starts pounding on the door with her fist. "Op, I know you're in there. The key is stuck. Open the door." I pick up my phone. I don't answer the call. Instead, I open our text thread. I see her last message from last night. "Can't wait to see the place. Don't worry about cleaning the guest room. Mike will do it later." I type a reply. My thumb hovers over the send button. I can hear her shouting through the glass. The movers are standing on the lawn, holding a heavy sofa, looking confused. They are burning daylight. They are burning money. And Sarah is about to realize that the bank of Big Brother is permanently closed. I hit send. The key isn't stuck. The locks are changed. "I told you last night, do not come here. You are not moving in. I never agreed to this. The movers charge by the hour, Sarah. You better find a storage unit before they start charging you overtime." I watched the security feed on my iPad. I saw her phone buzz in her hand. She looked down. Her face went through a complex journey of emotions. Confusion, realization, disbelief, and finally pure, unadulterated fury. Her face turned a shade of crimson that matched her lipstick. She screamed, a primal sound that actually made the movers take a step back. "He changed the locks," she shrieked at Mike. "He changed the damn locks." Mike dropped his vape. "What, is he home?" "He's inside." She ran to the window and started banging on the glass. "Open this door, you can't do this. We have a truck." I stayed seated. I took a sip of coffee. "Sir," one of the movers called out to Mike, "we can't leave this stuff on the lawn. HOA rules. Do we bring it in or put it back?" "Put it back," Sarah yelled, spinning around. "No, we are moving in. He's just being a brat. Break the door down if you have to." "Whoa, lady," the mover backed up, holding his hands up. "We are movers, not burglars. We aren't breaking anything. If you don't have a key, we can't offload, and clock's ticking. That's $150 an hour for the crew standby." Sarah's eyes bulged. She pulled out her phone and dialed the nuclear option. "Mom." My phone started ringing immediately. "Incoming call, Mom." I let it ring. Then Dad called. I let it ring. Then the texts started flooding in. "Mom, OP, open the door right now. Your sister is crying. How could you be so cruel?" "Dad, this is unacceptable behavior. You are embarrassing the family. Let them in." "Sarah, I'm calling the police. You can't lock me out of my home." I replied to the group chat. It is not her home. She is not a tenant. She has no lease. She has never paid rent. She does not have mail here. This is a trespassing issue. If she breaks my door, I will have her arrested. If she stays on my property for another 10 minutes, I will call the police myself. Outside, Sarah was losing it. She picked up a garden gnome from my porch, a gift from a friend, and looked like she was about to throw it through the window. Mike grabbed her arm. "Sarah, stop. If you break the window, he'll definitely call the cops. We have weed in the truck." That made her pause. Ah, Mike, always the pragmatist when his own skin is on the line. "Where are we supposed to go?" Sarah wailed, tears streaming down her face now. "We gave up our apartment. We have nowhere." I typed one more message. There is a U-Haul self-storage facility 3 miles down the road. They have climate-controlled units. There is a Motel 6 on the highway. I suggest you go there before you run out of money for the movers." Sarah read the text. She looked at the house. She looked at the window where she knew I was watching. She raised her middle finger and held it there for a solid minute. "Load it back up," she screamed at the movers. The movers looked annoyed. They had to pick up the heavy sofa they had just set down. They started tossing boxes back into the truck with significantly less care than they had taking them out. I heard the crash of something fragile breaking inside the truck bed. "Careful," Mike yelled. "Hourly rate, buddy," the mover grunted. "You want it done fast or perfect." It took them 40 minutes to reload the truck. Sarah spent the entire time packing on my driveway, screaming into her phone to my mother. I could hear snippets of it. "He's dead to me. No, we can't come back. The lease is signed over. You have to send us money for a hotel. Because he's a sociopath, that's why." Finally, the truck ramp clanged shut. Sarah and Mike got into the cab of the U-Haul. They peeled out of my driveway, leaving black tire marks on the concrete and a crushed azalea bush where Mike cut the turn too sharp. Silence returned to the cul-de-sac. I finally exhaled. My hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, but from the adrenaline dump of holding the line. I went to the kitchen and made a sandwich. At 2:00 p.m. a police cruiser rolled up slowly. My heart skipped a beat. Had she actually called them? I walked out to meet the officer. "Afternoon," the officer said, leaning out of his window. "We got a call about a domestic disturbance, a woman claiming she was illegally evicted." "My sister," I said calmly. "She doesn't live here. She showed up with a moving truck unannounced and tried to move in without my permission. I didn't let her in." "Did she have a lease?" the officer asked. No. Did she receive mail here? No. Did she ever stay here for more than a few days? She hasn't visited in 3 years. The officer chuckled and closed his notebook. Right, civil matter, but sounds like trespassing if she comes back. She told dispatch you stole her furniture. I assume you don't have a truck full of her stuff. They drove away an hour ago, I said, probably to a storage unit. All right, keep your doors locked. Family gets messy. Way ahead of you, officer. The rest of the day was a barrage of digital abuse. My aunt posted on Facebook that I was a heartless monster who left a young couple homeless. My cousins were blowing up my DMs calling me selfish. My mom sent a voicemail crying, saying I had broken the family apart and that Dad was having chest pains from the stress, a classic manipulation tactic. I didn't block them. I wanted the receipts. Around 8:00 p.m., I got a Venmo request from Sarah. Request $600 for the mover's extra time in the hotel room. You owe me this. I declined the request. I sent a final text to the family group chat. Let's be clear. Sarah tried to ambush me. She tried to move 2 adults into my home without asking, relying on emotional blackmail and a stolen key to force my hand. I am an adult. My house is my sanctuary. I'm not a safety net for poor planning. If anyone else has a problem with how I handle my property, you are welcome to house them. Mom, Dad, you have a guest room. Why didn't they move in with you? Oh, that's right, because you didn't want them either. That shut them up. See, my parents live in a retirement community that doesn't allow long-term guests. They couldn't take them. They were banking on dumping the problem on me so they could look like good parents without doing the work. I poured a glass of wine and sat on my patio. The sun was setting over San Diego. It was a beautiful evening. The air was cool, the neighborhood was quiet, and most importantly, my house was empty. My guest room was still my office. My master suite was still mine. Sarah and Mike are currently in a motel. I heard through a friend that they put their stuff in storage and are trying to find a month-to-month rental, but without jobs, nobody will approve them. They are likely going to have to drive back to Phoenix with their tails between their legs. I might be the villain in their story. I might be the bad son at Thanksgiving for the next decade. But as I locked my heavy-duty, bump-proof deadbolt that night, I felt a peace I hadn't felt in years. I realized that no is a complete sentence, and sometimes it's the most expensive word you can say, but it buys you freedom. So, dear viewers, am I the monster here for changing the locks on my own family, or did they get exactly the welcome they deserved? If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss an